Welcome back once more to another thrilling episode of Street Writers.
These are 10 minutes of writing motivation, inspiration, and activation.
We're going to be motivated, we're going to be inspired, and we are going to be activated by our very special guest, my dear friend, Greg Monaco.
Woohoo!
Hey guys, great to be here. I love what you guys are doing. I love this podcast, guys. I'm a listener, man. I'm one of the subscribers. From a listener's perspective, you know, you two have great chemistry together.
And you know what we did? We patterned ourselves up to all the great teams like Abbott and Costello and stuff. We actually fucking hate each other. We hate each other.
The minute the mic's off, we do not speak to each other again until like the next.
Yeah.
You sent me your bio. It's just great stuff. I'm just going to run down some highlights for our audience here. Beyond running your own global brand consultancy, Monaco Lang, you had clients like AT&T, you had Bulgaria, you had SAP, among many others. You author articles for Entrepreneur.com, Ad Age, Human Resources Exec. You're often touring the U.S. talking about branding and storytelling. We're lucky to get you in between all that. You are currently doing a lot of that thinking and working and writing with your new company, Monaco Branding and Creative. You're helping outfits like Girl Scouts of the USA, Amex, BASF build their brands, as well as individuals, authors, executives, recording artists. But I got to tell you, in the heart of it all, to me, you're always a writer, because I remember being locked in a closet at Ogilvy together, a windowless, dark room, just churning out copy deck after copy deck. So there will never be a moment I do not think of you in the purity of being somebody at a keyboard pushing out words.
Both of us in that room. I mean, you know, just the brain power, the sheer brain power in that closet was just awe-inspiring, right? I mean,
I think the brainiest part was that third desk they had dragged in there to try to get a third person in, and
right.
we just started throwing shit on top of it so that they could, you know, bury it underneath every like draft of everything we wrote, so we could close it off from the rest of the world. So
that's right. The net of what you had just spoken about was the fact that I've been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, and made a lot of stuff happen.
Yeah. The thing that I think is really interesting for me right now is the fact that I'm taking a lot of those storytelling ideas and aspects and bringing it into the personal sphere, helping people tell their own stories with personal branding.
For people who don't know what personal branding is, I mean, it's not just business related, right? Your brand may be to be a better parent or something. Just fill us in a little bit about what that means when you meet somebody for the first time about, let's start honing your personal brand.
Well, I'll liken it to like a corporate brand, because a corporate brand, what you want to do is get people aligned on a common vision. This is actually aligning a person on a vision. Mm-hmm. So that vision, you're right, that vision bridges not only their work life, but also, you know, how they live their life. So there is a life coaching aspect to it that you need to kind of tap into that source. Otherwise, the brand you create is going to be corrupt. That's what's interesting to me about personal branding, is there's a kind of a psychological element to it, where you've got to go deep and figure out where do the passions lie, and how do those get expressed in the world.
So you've got to probably tailor this to everybody you talk to, right?
Everybody's sort of, has their own fingerprint. So this is, going deep about what inspires them. It's kind of like rebooting their operating system. And then how does that manifest in making money? Like how do you profit from this new outlook? And that's really kind of the soul of creating that organizing principle for them to go out in the world and express what they're all about. That's fully aligned with who they are. It goes deep, man.
All right. So we want some tips. So Dan, let's go.
Time to take a swing at this.
These are the tips, tricks, and sleight of hand. Power up your pencil and percolate your brain.
This one is probably an accidental tip.
Those are the best.
When you're composing, when you're writing, and you're just struggling. Now, the writing that I've done in my career is mostly, commercial writing. Sure. So I'm helping companies tell stories. And a lot of the subject matter can be, like you're working for a telecommunications company or an advertising technology company. some of the subject matter can be just absolutely dry.
Sometimes, yes.
So how do you start to insert emotion into that's really what we're trying to do as storytellers, is connect with people with emotion and relevance.
Absolutely.
So one of the tricks that I do is I just start to rant. I'll open up a document and I'll just start to type, and kind of like it's almost a moment of improvisation where I'm just like automatic writing, where I'm just kind of like riffing. And include profanities, whatever it takes to get the emotional motor turning. And do that for until you kind of just run out of steam.
Right.
And then it's pretty surprising when you look back at what you've done. I would say 99% of it is pure tragedy, but you've got sometimes you've got these little nuggets of ideas that are on there, and it's like, oh, okay, if you've got an eye enough to be able to pick out some of those things, they can actually start to blossom into something worthwhile. So it's a way to kind of give yourself an emotional runway.
I love that. When you said rant, my first thought though was I had this image of you like just letting go, vocally ranting.
No, this
in
is
front of the
like,
screen to get your blood up or something.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I haven't tried that. I'm sure that might work. It's more of like kind of like a Unabomber manifesto, digital Unabomber manifesto.
It's interesting what references we choose to drop. Of the many things you could have gone with, Unabomber. It's just interesting.
And I always say curses are underrated. We may not get them into the corporate, but I've talked about just starting with every curse word I know to get myself started. Like, why am I doing this? Where is my purpose? And of course, this is the G-rated, but throw in a lot of F-bombs and everything else under the sun. And sometimes it just ends up with paragraphs of cursing in every language I could ever think of to get to that point. It's like, okay, it's cathartic. Now I'm exhausted. I guess I have to write this,
Yeah. In that cursing and in those moments, where you're not filtering yourself, I think that's where like the pure energy comes from.
Right.
So there's something that's just deeper that'll get activated.
Do you think that's just you being more authentic?
Oh, that's totally right. Yeah. Like you're not manipulating anything.
But it also gives you the chance to just literally, and Dan, you've talked about this, the kinetic feel of typing, like you're just literally moving your fingers on that keyboard, and it does something where it's, you're typing fast because you're ranting, but it gets your physical body moving as well as, kind of cathartic. And then it's like, okay, I'm typing. Let's go. Let's get this stuff done.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Mark. I mean, all of us can relate to this. Starting is the hardest part. Just getting the gears going. So why not have fun with it, right? I think that's part of it, is just something emotional gets activated. And if you're not feeling it, how do you think anybody else reading your work is going to feel it?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, no, I love that. And, there's only so many things you could say about writing, but the commonality, here we are, a bunch of old vets of the game, and we're all talking and everything. Starting is the hardest part. It's like, here we've done it a million years. We've probably got like a century of experience, and it's still getting started is brutal. So that's where the curses and the ranting come from.
And at this point, it's not just writing about that, just about anything. Opening a cereal box, it's starting. Once it's open, it's fine. But like that beginning, peeling back that cardboard gets harder.
I've been on a diet because I haven't figured out how to do it. I don't feel like dealing with it right now.
You got a tip to share? Send it to streetwriters.podcast@gmail.com. This is just part one of our interview with Greg Monaco. Check back next week for inspiration and activation. That's it for this time out. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us at streetwriters.podcast@gmail.com.
Tell your friends to listen, and their friends too.
Take it to the streets.
And fight to write.
That sounded impressive. We'll use that all the time.